So I call this Scribe, and it's basically just a way for me to make pipelines in like a more declarative way. And I started this actually before I even knew what Dagger was, and I think even before the Go SDK came out. So my goal with this is not necessarily to get people to start using it, but more so to show like how powerful Dagger is as a library, and not just, a tool that you use to like build pipelines that you can run locally, but also like how you can maybe get it to reflect your organization's requirements a little bit better. So here's kind of what I wanted at the time. I wanted to be able to run a pipeline locally the same way CI could, generate YAML, because I hate writing YAML. Even today, we only use Dagger. We don't use this. And still, that's like my biggest headache, is having to configure GitHub CI or GitHub Actions to actually work. I feel like it never does what I think it's going to do. And then normally whenever you're working with containers, you have to give it a command in order to like run. And I wanted to give it a go function. I feel like that would have been that's a lot more indicative of like what I want. And then I also wanted a more declarative API. So after Dagger was introduced, it basically made the first problem completely go away for me. I could run my entire pipeline locally, and I would just give it to CI, and it would just do it, and it was awesome. I still have to write the YAML, and I still don't really get to run Go functions for each step, although there is a way to do that. And I kind of wanted a more declarative API, and that's mostly what I'm going to focus on, is how I satisfied that requirement. So this is kind of like what it looks like to build something with Dagger. This is a really simplified version of making a Grafana package. You define the containers. So we need to build the front end and back end, and then package those up in a tarball. So what you do with Dagger is you define your containers that do those things, and then output a directory. And then your package container would use that directory to use those directories to make your package, and then you'd export it. So you kind of start from the bottom up. You build, and then you package, and then you're done. And so this is sort of what the code looks like for that. You just have 3 containers, and they use directories and all that sort of stuff. But if you scale that out a lot, it becomes really hectic. And like if you need to go fix something in the middle, maybe it's a little bit unclear where all these different directories are coming from, or maybe you don't really know, like, oh, well, I'm gonna change something, and it's gonna, who knows. But so this is this is like my view of what that DAG sort of looks like in like a simplified way. So on the bottom, which is a little bit unintuitive, on the bottom is the order which I have to define things in, which is the bottom up. Like I build the containers, make the package, export it. And really what I want to do is I want to say, I just want a package, and you can figure out how that's produced. And so that's sort of where I introduced this project. So this is sort of how you would write a pipeline, is you would say, package just requires these things, it provides this, and here's what it does. Build backend just requires these things, provides a compiled backend, and here's what it does, and so on and so forth. Here's an example. It might be kind of hard to read, but this is just sort of what the code looks like. It's just a Go struct, and then you give it to a function. But I think we'll see a little bit more in the demo, which is up next. So I'm only sharing a window, so I need to switch that. I'm going to stop sharing and share a terminal. And I hope this is the right terminal. Okay, perfect. So I'll show the example real quick. I call it demo multi. So here I have just 4 pipelines. I want pipeline to install dependencies, build, test, and publish. Now, if I go look at the publish one, it doesn't actually say I depend on the build step first. It just says if I need to zoom in any further, please let me know. It just says I require compiled backend right here, and I require a compiled front end. And then it just sort of figures it out. So, and then it also says I provide this tar package. And so if I were to run it, so this is all using Dagger too. So we also get, of course, let me remember what I did. because I could have sworn. Oh, right. I forgot the forward slash. Okay, no, I didn't. Now I'm panicking. All right, we're gonna fix this real quick.
No
I,
worries. This is a community call, not an
yeah,
official
of
presentation.
course.
So we're all here with you.
I wonder why it's doing this. Why is it complaining? Because oh, multi. Let me see if I have that. Uh, okay, I think it's just because I said main.go. That was my bad. So let's use this example. So it's going to run the pipeline. It's going to ask me, hey, you said you require the source, like the source code, but nothing provided it. So why don't you just tell me where that is? And then I just say, hey, it's right here. And then same thing for the Go mod. Where can I find the Go mod for your project? Right here. Boom. And then it's gonna, since it's using Dagger, it does all this really nice caching for me. I've already ran all of this stuff, so it's just gonna complete almost instantly. And so you can see it's running all of these steps. Oh, hold on. I do believe. So I labeled this earlier, not for production use, because there are a lot of bugs. Let me try rerunning it. It's more than likely that I know exactly what bug is happening. But just imagine for a second that it was completing. But because of course in a demo, nothing ever is going to work the same way. But let me demonstrate one thing that I really like about this sort of idea is if I do so I have different clients. So one of those clients is Dagger, right? However, okay, so before I continue, I'm actually going to remove this file. That way we can actually see it complete. Because it would be quite a disaster if it didn't complete. But so now it's just waiting for the arguments to be provided by another step that's running. It might take a minute. There we go. And so now those arguments were provided, and now it's continuing on to do the things that it wanted to do, which was building the backend. And now it's done running the step to package, and it should be just about done. Now it's just waiting for the now it's waiting for the GCP publish key, which I did not provide it, so it's not going to complete. But if I gave it the publish key, it would complete. But what I really want to show is I can switch my client from Dagger, which we use drone at Grafana. So if I use drone, it's going to give me a drone YAML. And if I just commit that, it'll do the exact same thing in drone of what I just did or what I've defined. So here we have, our different pipelines and what they depend on. Like it's going to publish, for example, and it's going to run this pipeline, which is just a Dagger pipeline to publish my code. And it also takes into account when I've defined when I want things to run. So that's what I'm really excited about. I really don't like writing YAML. So that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Kevin. And one question in the chat, how would you modify this to work with the Go SDK?
So originally I was actually me not using Dagger was a horrible experience because I was shelling out to the Docker CLI to just do all this stuff and just kind of trying to figure out how that worked and then hoping that worked. And then I also needed to make Docker networks and all this crazy stuff. Now if I go and I can look for the commit where I replaced all of that stuff with Dagger, and Dagger was like using Dagger was like 10% of the size of what I was doing. And it was so much better.
And then Tina's asking, so you say you're in a Dagger on drone by using Scribe to confirm.
Yeah, and the scribe command. I mean, we're not using this at Grafana. We are just using Dagger straight up. But we do want to borrow a lot of these concepts in our where we're using Dagger. So maybe have a little bit more of a more declarative API. Maybe figure out how we can generate the drone YAML. But yeah, and the scribe command is just an alias to go run. So if I run this real quick, you can actually see right here the go run command that is the equivalent of what I just did. And then that basically is just what you would normally do with Dagger is you just do go run.
Yeah, we actually do the same with our hack make, which helps us bootstrap Dagger.
Yeah.
So it's basically some kind of make that does an alias to go run.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's just so many like arguments that I have to give it that like I don't really want to repeat myself, you know.
Yeah, we use mage behind, but like yeah, it's the same idea.
Thank
And
you so
another,
much.
I had another question. Like, so you showed like you could switch like the client, and so it would generate like the YAML from drone. But if you
Mm-hmm.
just use the client as Dagger, then it just use Dagger locally.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it use Dagger in drone, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
You can see here. So I actually got rid of the CLI client. It's the exact same as the Dagger client. So it generates a drone YAML that then uses the Dagger client when it's running in drone.
All right. Got it. Nice.